Hello, my name is Greg Martin. I'm Senior Product Manager over multicloud at Securiti. Today I'd like to talk to you about how Securiti and Google Cloud work together to ensure safe and responsible use of data. The main challenge Securiti addresses surrounds data security and data privacy. Recent explosive growth in data collection, paired with the cloud data warehouse and analytics tools from providers such as Google Cloud, businesses of all sizes are able to make data-driven decisions. However, at the same time, those organizations often struggle to make full use of the data at their disposal due to questions and concerns related to security and privacy obligations. With the explosive growth in volume of cloud data and increased regulatory complexity, organizations are challenged to tackle the associated data security, privacy, and governance obligations. Manual approaches are no longer an option, as it is no longer a human scale problem, and automation is really the only solution. Now let's take a look at some of the key requirements and use cases that we need to consider. First is finding all of your actual data systems. When software is developed natively in the cloud, platforms such as GCP is straightforward to identify your data systems. But there are also plenty of cloud apps that are a result of lift and shift from enterprise systems, and these may contain local data systems such as MongoDB, MySQL that are local installs, and those do not appear in your inventory in your GCP environment. We call these shadow data systems, and it's very imperative to track all of these in addition to your native data systems. Once you have a handle on the location of these data systems, now your big question is, how do you find all of the sensitive data that exists in these systems? And not only find the data, but map whom does that data belong to. Now the requirements have changed. Traditional classification tools such as DLP are no longer sufficient when finding personal data. And then you also have the need to map it back to individuals in order to honor things such as data subject rights requests. And to add to that, the definition of personal data is also much broader than it ever before. So advanced AI and machine learning techniques are really needed for proper detection of these loose personal data terms. Now, GCP offers hundreds of options to help protect your cloud data assets, but it's ultimately your responsibility to make sure the appropriate settings are in place and you are compliant. Another requirement is making sure all of your data systems are configured correctly from a security perspective. One of the biggest challenges is accidental misconfigurations that lead to exposures. Having context about which data assets have the most sensitive data enables an organization to prioritize that cleanup. With the sensitive data flowing into the cloud, it is imperative to monitor and govern access as well. This includes internal users as well as external sharing. We should always strive for a least privileged access principle. Consider monitoring user behaviors if they haven't used a system that contains sensitive data for a long period of time. Perhaps really they don't need this access. And on top of this, privacy regulations are rapidly evolving. CCPA is still relatively new, and CPRA is just around the corner. Many other regulations are emerging in various countries, but they all require knowledge of new laws and automated processes. Consider that situation where data is in one country and a user is in the other. There are different regulations in each country. How do you sort that out, and what are your requirements around protection? In the past, we've addressed these requirements through a variety of siloed tools. This leads to inconsistent results. And while many cloud providers have some capabilities built in, it's far more attractive to have a common set of policies and controls that can span all of your cloud environments. This delivers consistent results regardless of where the data is located and streamlines operational processes for data protection, privacy, and security. So let's step through a modern approach to tackling these, putting these autonomous guardrails for your multi-cloud environment out there. First of all, we need to automatically find all the data systems that may contain sensitive data, including those shadow data systems I mentioned earlier, that may have resulted from those lift and shift of legacy apps. And then we feed those insights into your data catalog. Next, we need to ensure that all these systems are configured properly. flag and report misconfigurations, automate the remediation as appropriate, and prioritize remediation based on which assets contain sensitive data. Now we can do the heavy lifting of automatically identifying all of the sensitive data, including hundreds of sensitive data elements and preferences of users. We can scan both structured and unstructured data systems for a complete view. And then on top of that, we'll create what we call a people data graph to map personal data back to individual users. Then we can enrich that with a wide range of privacy and security metadata, such as purpose, retention, and more. And essentially, it's a master map that provides granular insights into all of your sensitive data. Then on top of that, we can govern both internal and external access, identify inactive users or overprivileged users, and make recommendations for least privileged access maintenance. And then we can dynamically mask sensitive information to avoid accidental sensitive data exposure. For example, in sharing large data sets in Snowflake with key partners, we can do so without the risk and liability of exposing sensitive data. Then, with an extensive knowledge of personal data, along with mapping to an individual, we can automate the privacy aspects, such as data mapping and building your records of processing activities for DSR fulfillment and leveraging real-time knowledge of an individual's personal data to automate DSRs. And then we can help with assessment automation and automatically knowing when to trigger things like PIAs and DPIAs. And then in the end, we can also help with breach management by understanding the scope of a breach based on the location of sensitive data and the types of sensitive data in an asset. And then beyond privacy, we can move into things such as PCI and HIPAA and other security-related regulations. And we offer one-click reports to demonstrate compliance across multiple regulations and audits. Now, modern data governance needs to be architected for hyperscale in cloud environments. The legacy application solutions out there are just not going to cut it when you're trying to analyze data at the petabyte scale. You need to also avoid pulling data out of their native data systems and into a central repository because the data volumes are just too vast and large right now. And our distributed architecture allows data to stay in its native environment, avoid those costs of replication and duplication and network penalties, and prevent and avoid any data sovereignty issues. At the end of the day, pursuing this type of approach yields many benefits, including one, cost. Your manual approaches are far too labor intensive, especially with the growing complexity of regulations and the volume of data. Secondly, the scale. The explosion of data across multi-cloud requires an architecture with unique types of scalability. And then lastly, your liability. This data-centric approach we take based on the ground truth of what is in your environment increases accuracy and reduces your overall liability. Now, if you'd like to hear more, please visit us at securityai.com/GCP to learn more or request a demo from one of our advisors. Thank you.